Hi, I'm Walt Wager, and this video is about how to turn a square top hollow form. The video was shot the other night in the midst of a thunderstorm, so I've redone the introduction and I've tried to edit the storm out as best I could, but I don't have time to reshoot it. But I'm going to start with a piece of wood that's square as I can make it, 3 by 3 by and about 5 inches long, and we'll go from there. I'll do the layout, the shaping, the hollowing, carving. So the first step in this process is to lay out the wood, the square that's going on top. It doesn't matter in this piece which is the top and which is the bottom, but this is the most square piece up here, I think. So I'm going to draw some diagonal lines from corner to corner so I know where the center is. You see the marks on there. And I'm going to take a compass and lay out a circle that'll be the hole in the top. I'm going to hollow this through a 1-inch hole, so with my framing square I'm going to set my compass at a 1/2 inch. And draw a circle in the middle of the piece. Now I'm going to lay out the square sides around that circle. I'll give myself at least 1/4 inch. On each side. Now I've defined what are going to be the edges of the corner of the square on top of the piece. Now the actual thickness of the top isn't going to be 1/4 inch. It's going to be more like 1/8 inch. I'm going to give myself some room so I have some room to sculpt that top. And I can always take wood away, but I can't put it back. Next, I'm going to see how deep I want this to be. I want it 1/2 inch deep. I'm going to measure 1/2 inch. I'm going to chase that around the edges of the piece. If the piece is perfectly square, they'll all line up when I get to the end. And I'm not expecting that to happen. Hopefully it's close. And it's off about 1/32 of an inch, 1/16 maybe. Won't bother anything. I'm going to run my cut lines down along the side. So the sides are also marked. I'm going to take it to the bandsaw. Next step is to put a tenon on this side of the piece so we can turn it. So I'm going to mount this between centers using a spur drive and put a tenon on the bottom end of this hollow form. I'm using a dead blow hammer to protect my spur drive as much as possible. Put that here like that. Bring up my tailstock. And lock it down. And then bring it into the center. Put it. So I am just going to rough it round and put a tenon on the bottom. I'm using a spindle roughing gouge, and I believe in the ABC anchor bevel cut procedure. Put my tenon on there, and what I use for a tenon is just a little 1/8 inch scraper. I have a tenon gauge for the struck down there, a piece of plywood. Now I can turn around and put it in the chuck. So the chuck I'm using is a Big Mark 100, 2-inch chuck, 2-inch jaws. Put that in there nice and square. And then just turn Pretty true. I always mark the number 1 jaws. Even though I'll probably have to mark it again. So if I have to rechuck it, I know how to get it back in the same place. So now I'm going to shape it with the idea being an Acoma vase shape. I'm just going to bring this up to secure it. And I'm going to shape the top shoulder. The tool I'm using for the shoulder is a 1/2-inch spindle gouge, and basically I'm just going to shape from here to here. My preference is keep my fingers behind the tool rest like this and use it as a pivot when I come around this corner. I don't want to hit these corners. If I hit these corners, the square is going to be smaller than what I want. I'm pretty close to those corners, but I haven't hit them. Now, normally I like this, the thickest diameter to be about 1/3 of the way down, so you have like a 1/3, 2/3 division. Again, I'm using my 1/2-inch spindle gouge to get this profile. I'm going to taper this down and make a few curves from here, from my widest point down to the bottom. Give myself some room here of relief. Look at that a minute and just kind of feel the curve, and actually I'm pretty happy with that. There are some rough spots in here that I'll take out with a square scraper. So this is a 3/4 inch square scraper. Has a burr on the end of it. It's a negative rake. I'm going to use it basically horizontally around here like this to take out any lumps and bumps. And I cleaned it up pretty well. This is looking more like maple to me than ash. Oh, maybe it was mislabeled when I bought it. I would like to make this foot a little bit smaller. I like the foot to be about the same size as the top. Right now it's larger than the top. So I'm going to do a little more carving on that on the bottom. Now I'm going to hollow it. So I'm going to start my hollowing by drilling a hole down within a 1/2 inch of the bottom. I'll put a piece of tape on my twist drill here, with a 1/2 inch twist drill. Looking along the top. And in order to get that drill to run straight, I take my spindle gouge and make a little notch right here in the end so that it centers the drill when it comes in. I'm going to go get a 1-inch Forstner bit and drill down into the hole. This 1-inch Forstner bit is not long enough to go all the way to the bottom of the 1/2 inch hole I drilled, but that's fine. And one question I usually get is, why did I drill the 1/2 inch hole first, not just use the Forstner bit? The answer is that when the Forstner bit's going into end grain, the center of this is not moving very fast, and so it's fighting against that point. And if I do it with the twist drill first, it goes a lot smoother. So I'll back this all out and try to stay out of the way of the video. My speed down to about 500. Put the drill out. The drill is hot, so if I take a tiny piece of wax and put it on the drill, this is a carnauba wax. It's from the wheel buffing system. Doesn't matter, you can use paraffin. That's as deep as I'm going to go with that. So the next step is hollowing. I'm going to take the tailstock off and get set up for hollowing. The tools that I use for hollowing are a small Sorby hollowing tool, crook neck hollowing tool, swan neck hollowing tool, whatever you want to call it. A straight tool with a Hunter cup carbide cutter, and a Hunter curved tool with a carbide cutter. When I hollow this, I want to leave some beef right here at this corner because I'm going to be shaping this into the square and I can't, if I hollow it too thin, I'm going to go right through the surface of the hollow form. I know from experience. So I'm going to start hollowing this tool just to get the neck done up in here where I want to hollow, get some room up in this corner. I'm hollowing about 1,000 RPM. It's important with the crook neck tool that you keep the straight shaft on the tool rest and not let it get on the bend, otherwise it'll pull it down like this. So the straight shaft is on the tool rest, you have control of the piece. I use that just to get some room in there, and I have to blow some of that dust out. My newest toy is this little high-speed blower, and it works great for blowing the wood out of the chips out of the hollow form. So, got some room. We're going to move on to a little more aggressive cutter to take out some of the side wood. I want to be cutting out the center. Remember, I want the straight part of the shaft on the tool rest. And at some point I have to get the dust back out of there so that it doesn't bind up on the tool. I'm going to turn the dust collector on for a minute just so I get that out of there. I'm going to go with a straight tool now because I know approximately that the bottom is, I think the marks on here, the bottom is where I wanted the Fosner bits, about there. Now with this tool, I can be as close as I can get without hitting the corners. But I do want to have a little bit of an angle at it to keep this as perpendicular as I can for control. I have a little wire gauge that I made from coat hanger wire, and the gap in here is a little more than 1/4 of an inch. So I can stick that in there and know that if I haven't got any room showing, I'm not thin enough yet. getting there. Where I gauge thickness. So this tool is a little negative rate scraper, teardrop shaped scraper. This has to be cutting at the middle or slightly above. And all it's good for is smoothing out the sides. So I always start it inside the vessel. And just tease it along the bottom. And turn the motor off when I pull it out so I don't catch an edge. So that's about where I need to be at this point. The next point involves some carving. My carving tools are called microplanes. I have 4 of them. There's 2 squares, a big one and a small one, and 2 rounds, a big one and a small one. So what I'm going to do is use the large round one, again, to blend the corner into the square. This cuts down into the round a bit. Very fast cutter when they're new, especially when they're really sharp. I want to try to avoid messing this up as much as I can up here. So I'm going to lock this down with the index wheel. And smooth this down until the side starts to meet the square. You see now where you don't want to make it too thin up here, because if this is really thin, you go right through it. In fact, I feel like right now it's about 1/4 of an inch thick. So I'm going to leave that alone for a minute, moving around to the next one. Okay, move around to the next one. Till those 2 corners meet. Do the last one. those two corners meet. Now, it's still kind of rough, and I can start smoothing it out. I'm going to use the small round one just to kind of get in those corners and work on the little spots. And if I look at the front end of this, I don't want these to be so thick. I'm going to take the square piece now and cut them down. Okay, I drew some new lines on the back here, so I have an approximate idea how far down I need to go. I'm using the larger square cutter to angle this a bit down from that bandsaw cut line. I want it to look smooth coming into that square. Do that if I get some of this wood on the top out of the way. Coming back with the round scraper, getting that out of the way. At this point, it's still rough. Before I go any further with that, I'll check my other sides. Alright, so now I'm ready to square off the insides. I do that, of course, with a square scraper, and I'll come in on the corner like that. Sometimes this, with the smaller one, gives you a better idea where you are. And of course, I want to make it square, so I don't want to spend too much time on the thin side. I want to get the meat out of the corner. Okay, you can see that process on all four corners. I'm trying to just make the corner equal thickness to the thinnest spot on the side, and I'll square it all up later. Now I can take the larger flat one and even up the thickness. Sticks are nothing more than a piece of sandpaper glued to a craft stick, and it's easy enough to get it in there, get around the corners, and smooth everything off. So other than parting it off, that's the process that I use to make a square top hollow form. And I'm not going to part it off right now because I'll put some sort of embellishment on it, and I'll use this in my carving holder to hold it while I work on it. And I can work more on this, smoothing these out up here also with sandpaper. So if you enjoyed this video, seeing how this was done, give it a thumbs up or subscribe, and have a good time trying to turn one. Thank you.